Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, the Executive Director of Rock Solid Families.
And I'm Merle Hutchinson, President of Rock Solid Families. And we are excited to have you join us as we talk all things faith, family, and fitness. A special thanks to Maxwell Construction and Mansfield Insurance Agency for their support of Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community one family at a time. Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. Hey, this is Merle Hutchinson and my lovely Linda, who's not here today. She is not in the studio today. Instead, I am being visited by two fine young ladies. Don't tell Linda because she might be jealous, okay?
Of course.
Yeah. Well, anyway. Right. But anyway, we have a couple guests in the house today, and we're going to take on a subject that I think a lot of you listeners out there, especially parents who have kiddos that might struggle a little bit in school, you're going to want to tune in today to what we have going on. But before I introduce my guests, I better do a little bit of, I guess I just call it housekeeping or paying the bills or something like that. Mm-hmm. All right, so we need to run a couple of ads. And first off, let's talk a little bit about your insurance needs. So we want to thank Mansfield Insurance Agency. Mansfield is located up in Bright, Indiana, and has been in business since 1981. They have been serving individuals and businesses in not just Bright, Indiana, but also in Ohio and Kentucky. So for all of your insurance needs, call Mansfield Insurance Agency at 1-800-230-3927. Also, we would like to thank Maxwell Construction. Maxwell Construction was founded in 1988 by John Maxwell. And since that time, Maxwell Construction has grown and expanded to become among the most recognized commercial construction companies in the tri-state area. What separates Maxwell Construction apart from their competition is their emphasis on being a service-oriented company rather than just a project company. And so whether you are building a school or a hospital, restaurant, apartment, or retail center, Maxwell Construction is able to meet your needs. Call Maxwell Construction at 812-537-2200. Also, we do have a couple of announcements. As we are going through the long part of winter, we want to remind everybody that we are still running our exercise classes that we call finishing 6 days a week. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 a.m. and Tuesday, Thursday at 6 p.m. along with Saturdays at 9 a.m. And also we do personal training, so if there is any of you out there that would be interested in just trying to figure out what's going on with your body or what kind of fitness program is best for you, give us a call and we can work through some of that. Okay, let's get to the real right. business, okay? I have two ladies here that are actually teachers at Bright Elementary School, of which that's the school that I was a school counselor at. All right, so I have Kristen Hallahan and I have Miss Karen Schebler. Okay,
wow. Thanks for having us.
Yes, ladies, thanks for coming out today. So I brought you guys in because we tried to hit topics of kind of that are surrounding faith, family, fitness, okay? And this would be kind of in our family target area of, we all have kiddos that go through school, and we love when kids love school, right?
Oh, yeah.
Those kids who just excel at school and, do I get to go to school? No, not another snow day. I need school, right? Yeah. Well, those kids are sick. Anyway, we also have kids that they don't like school.
Right.
And school is sometimes like getting hit in the head every day. Mm-hmm. And especially particular subjects or activities that the kids partake in maybe sometimes show their less than good sides or strong sides. Mm-hmm. And in particular, I contacted you guys because we see this in our house. I have a couple kiddos that don't like to read.
Right.
Okay, and we're going to tackle the subject of reading today. And I think as we were talking before we started really recording things today, we really, from my years and experience in school, schools often miss the mark on who their audience is. And a lot of that has to do with what we bring in to the show as far as teachers. Typically, teachers tend to like school. They tend to do well at school. They're excited about school.
Right.
And especially at the elementary level, most teachers are female. Okay?
Right.
And as a male at the elementary level, I always kind of have my eyes on, like, what are those boys experiencing? I was a boy who didn't particularly like reading.
Yeah.
And so now we have boys who think differently, move differently, and many of them who don't really get the reading thing. Mm-hmm. Okay? And again, plenty of girls too that struggle with that. I'm just generalizing here. So let's talk a little bit about the idea of where you guys are in the school, what you teach, kind of what your backgrounds are, and let's tackle this whole reading thing about how we can help parents get their kids through that, and maybe some different ways that we should look at reading to help our kids. All right?
Okay.
So who wants to go first?
Go for it.
I'll go first. So I'm Karen Schebler. I teach kindergarten at Bright Elementary. This is my, I think it's my 8th year now in kindergarten. I was an assistant before that in 2nd and 4th grade, so I've got to work with a couple of different age groups of kiddos. I guess my favorite thing about teaching is just like watching kids grow and develop and finding that love of learning and also reading. Just something I really enjoy.
And I'm Kristen Hallahan, and I also teach kindergarten. This is my 3rd year in kindergarten. I taught 3 years of 2nd grade, and I was an assistant as well in 1st grade and 3rd grade, so all across the board.
Right, yeah.
And I would say my favorite part of teaching is just trying to make it fun. Just coming up with ways to make the lessons engaging, and then watching kids have fun in their learning.
Yeah, which, one of the things that we've noticed over the years, having the fun aspect is becoming more and more challenging every day, right, just because of the diversity of the clientele that you have as students, and also the regimen that you guys have to follow in terms of just making sure you're covering your bases, right, for your curriculum coverage and that kind of thing, we call standards and stuff like that. So sometimes you are feeling like you're on the mark at all times. You can't waver, and if you're doing something fun, wait, are you sure that that's legitimate? Yeah.
But then you just show up in a costume.
Yeah.
That's our take on it.
Oh, that's one reason why I'm out of there now. Another costume.
I think that works out for our elementary friends, but I'm sure those high school children wouldn't find
might not be as
nearly as entertaining.
Yeah. So what is your favorite level to teach?
Mine is for sure like kindergarten, 1st grade.
Okay.
Probably not a lot higher than that. I really enjoy the little people.
And so why is that? Why do you like that grade level?
I like that they come in, some of them maybe not exposed to a whole lot of education beforehand. Okay. So I really love being able to work with them, get them going, and then you get to watch them grow as they leave you.
Right.
If you're one of the older grade teachers, maybe you only have them for a year and then they're kind of gone. But I like watching them, grow into who they're going to be.
Yeah. Okay.
For me, the same. Kindergarten is definitely where my heart's at, and was my concentration when I went through college. So I have always known that that was the grade level that I enjoyed the most, and for a lot of the same reasons. The amount of growth you see in a kindergarten year is so much different than the amount of growth that you see in some of the other upper grades.
Yeah. So what about, as we start to tackle the subject of reading, can you, at the kindergarten and 1st grade level, do you already see a resistance towards reading with some of those kiddos, or are they still pretty pliable and like, I want to learn this, and they pretty much pick up on it quickly? What's your take on that?
I kind of think it's how you go about it first. If your mindset is that you want these kids reading certain books for a certain amount of time every day and they don't really have a say-so, you're going to get a lot of resistance, especially from, your little boys who just want to be outside playing. Like,
sure,
reading a book right now isn't, their top priority. I know in our classrooms, we really try to get them to feel some ownership of it. Like, the more you read, it opens up a whole new world to you.
Right.
It's not just reading an AR book. Like, if you're outside with mom and dad, like, you can read signs. If you're at the restaurant, you can now make your own choices because you can read what's on the menu.
That's right,
So
the practical side of it.
We really try to go about it more of a, I don't want you just reading books from the library or something at a certain level, but something that interests you, something that's going to, maybe develop your imagination or help you get excited about something else in life, not just a school-based activity.
Yeah.
And I would say having 2 grade levels to compare it, teaching second and then kindergarten, there's definitely a lot more resistance even by second grade than I see in kindergarten. And I think coming into kindergarten, these kids have been told, like, as soon as you get to school, that's when you'll be able to start reading.
Right.
So, they've been hearing this, and then they get to kindergarten, and the first time you call them a reader, I mean, you should see their face. They're just excited to be known as a reader. They're just excited to hit that milestone.
Okay, so what about the kiddo who is slow to get the title reader, right? So how do you guys, first, how do you recognize that, okay, this little guy or girl is struggling a little bit more? How do you recognize that? And then what are some things that you start to do?
Okay, so, and I think in kindergarten it's a little easier to identify that just because they do come in, for the most part, at a pretty equal level. But the kids who are picking up on their sight words faster, who are being able to sound out and blend words faster, you can usually catch on to that pretty fast.
And then to address it when we see that there is a problem, we do have a time during our day. It's used to be RTI, now it is MTSS.
I remember,
Do you remember
RTI.
RTI?
Yes.
Yeah.
One of your favorite times.
You're a big driving
let's go to the
force
next subject, please.
Anyways, during that time, we're able to pull kids out that are struggling into a smaller group setting. And this year, I feel like our MTSS time has really taken off with our kiddos that struggle.
Okay.
We have a great resource teacher that comes down to us, and just the hands-on activities that she'll do with them, and the out-of-the-box way of thinking about getting these kids to learn.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel our corporation has really made a lot of great strides in the past couple of years at finding programs to help us identify kids who are struggling, and then gives us tools to work with them. That's something that we always kind of felt like we struggled with. We didn't have necessarily like a go-to program.
Right.
Trying to create
You
your
could
own
identify,
program.
but then, everybody was kind of always stuck with, creating
I would
tool.
say.
And then the tool had to measure up.
Right. And
to
the
do its
things
job.
we're using now, we stand firmly behind.
Good.
And have seen a lot of growth from using them. So
Okay, so the older, what I'll call the RTI model, was kind of that idea that you guys identified some of the kiddos that were struggling, and we used to kind of break that up into percentages. 80% of the kids were going to just do kind of okay, no big problem. 15% we're going to be, we're wandering, they're a little bit slower, and 5% we're just not going to be getting it. And those were what we always called our tier 3 kids, right? So put some new terminology on it, or is that the same terminology we're using? What are our teachers and parents now hearing from you guys?
So we really have a couple of programs that have identified like target levels of what you would expect a kindergartner to be able to read at different parts of the year. And that, at least in our building, K through 5, we have these target levels that you would expect them to be at. So if they're not there, that would identify your groups pretty quickly.
Okay, so my first question, do you guys trust the target levels?
I do.
Yeah.
I feel like more than any program we've had before, I feel like
Okay.
this is way more.
because it coincides with what you're seeing in the classroom outside
Good.
of the testing.
So it's matching, and that's important, because sometimes we would run into things that said a kid was doing well or not doing well, and you're like, well, in my
It's the
class they're
opposite.
fine.
those are some of those frustrating conversations you bring to you. Like,
and I'd
we
be
know
like,
that
you solve that problem.
Okay, so you trust that if it's if you're seeing this with a kiddo, you're probably going to duplicate it in this process that you're using.
Sure.
Right? Okay, so now you've identified this kiddo is struggling a little bit, and so he goes into this program. And so how does this program function differently in terms of getting them up to speed?
I think the first thing we do is reach out to the families for sure, because you need them to be on the same side as you and kind of following the same things that we're doing at school, and then reinforcing that at home
as a team.
Yeah, that's where we see our greatest success as parents who are going to help us work on this at home as well. So what was your question again?
So what do you do differently for them? So I know they're doing other activities around those reading lessons and those kind of things. What does the activity look like that's now different? Is it more hands-on? Is it kinetic in its nature? Are we mixing up a lot of different learning styles?
Are we allowed to name drop the program that we're really fond of?
I don't care.
Because Karen actually got to go to the training.
Yeah, so our corporation paid for a person in every grade level to go to, or at least K through 5, to go to a training for Orton Gillingham.
Sure.
And I wasn't really familiar with the program. I'd heard it name dropped a couple of times.
Been around for a long time.
Yeah, it is a phenomenal program. And sitting through the training, I was like, this is what my instruction has been missing, because it's not just a paper-based thing where we're passing out things and you're trying to read it to me, but it's having them make connections through different maybe rhymes or chants we use, using sand to build words and to sound things out, using screens, so you're touching the sensory aspect of learning.
Okay.
For sure, the kinesthetic learning, it's not just a child sitting in their seat listening to you all day,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
Especially, again, not to target those boys, but that's hard for a little boy to sit in a seat for 8 hours a day.
And they probably get a little bit more motivated when their hands are touching a screen.
We get sand.
We get to get on sand. Yeah.
We have so our school is 1-to-1 now, so we have Chromebooks for every child to use at any time during the day, and we have 2 really great programs that we use, Reading Eggs and Reading Express. We have
Fontes and Pinnell.
Yeah.
Some of the older grades have expressed that they are really seeing a lot of growth with using that program also.
Okay.
And we see it's more we have a lot of time throughout our day where it's just small pull-out programs where, you have 3 or 4 kids who are about the same level, not necessarily in the same class.
Okay.
Maybe not even in the same grade.
Okay.
That you're working on. So that child who's also struggling, they're not feeling like they're the one that's singled out. I'm the one kid in my class who can't read and nobody else is like me. And it's fun for them.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And just the direct instruction, too, of you in this small group.
Yeah.
Direct instruction with what you're struggling with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My kids will ask, is it OG time? Is it OG time yet?
OG. What's OG stand for?
Orton Gillingham.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right.
There you go.
Follow us, Hutch.
I just wanted to make sure, because we did RCI for years, and that had 3 or 4 different real names.
Right. And of course, when we get the Chromebooks out, they're excited because it's a Chromebook. But, we don't have to tell them that what they're doing on the Chromebook is actually
learning.
Yeah. Don't ruin it for them.
it looks like a game, but you're actually learning through that. Yeah.
Okay, so the school is always wrapping their head around how to help our kiddos learn and process through that. Let's go to the home, right? Because that's kind of I always said with discipline, if I had a tough kid, even a discipline problem, but I had a solid home,
right?
We are going to get through
You're
that.
encouraged.
Right.
Yeah.
We're going to get through that.
Yes.
Right. Versus if I had a difficult kid with discipline and also just the family or the marriage or whatever was kind of not healthy, all bets are off.
Right.
Whether you're going to get them through there. So let's look at the home and what parents can do and what you guys see is helpful to getting our kids through this reading thing and just getting a grip on it so that we can see some progress. What do you guys need from your parents, and what do you help them with so you can get that?
Well, the parents are the first teacher.
Yeah.
And it's important that they remember that. Yes, we are with their kids throughout the week, but it's definitely a team effort. And so I know Karen and I both send home fluency folders with the kids every week. They get it, every night, and it comes back on Fridays. And that just has a lot of activities for them to work through with their kids, so that if it is a home that maybe doesn't have all the resources or they're not sure what to pull or what to do, we have a folder with resources for them to go to each night.
Gosh, just trying to make it fun. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
don't beat your child up over,
Right.
they haven't met their AR goal yet.
Right.
Like
Right.
2 weeks left in the quarter,
Right.
because all that does is put more pressure on them and makes them not want to do it more. Like,
Right.
it's just surrounded
Especially
by
at those early grades where it's
Yeah.
not like they're purposely just trying to rebel
Right.
against you.
Right.
It's more like, well, this reading is not easy, or I'm not enjoying
Yeah.
it, so they're avoiding it maybe for those reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
And we get, definitely with kindergarten, first grade, you can make things a lot more fun than you can maybe a fifth grade book. But still reading to your child. Just because
Right.
they can read on their own doesn't mean you quit reading to them.
Okay,
Right?
so yeah, you hear a lot of that, like the benefits of reading to your kids. So even if my kid is having a difficult time picking up on reading, what is the benefit of me reading to them?
First,
You're modeling it.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And that's important to model what a good reader looks like, what a good reader does if they are struggling with a word,
Okay.
what a good reader does if maybe there's a part of the book that they're just not as interested in. Anything else that you...
Just showing them that, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Right.
When you're reading to your kid, are you allowing the kid to see the words as you're reading, or are they across from you and they're really not even looking at the words? Is it better that they see the words and you even are pointing to the words you're calling out?
Yeah, I think reading like side by side, and even like trading off. You can do partner reading. Like my son is in
Okay.
fourth grade. I read a chapter, he reads a chapter.
Right.
He can ask me questions about what I was reading, and then I ask him questions about what was reading.
Right.
Make it a
Yeah.
little more interactive.
And I think younger kids really do benefit from seeing the words, and if you're reading a book where you can actually track the words with your finger, they'll make that connection then when they go to read. I need to use this tool to track my words and know
Right.
where I'm at.
Yeah.
Yeah. And really, just not devoting your entire night to reading.
Yeah, I wanted to
I've
ask
heard
you,
some
like,
crazy stuff where people,
Oh.
you make your kid go in their room and read for an hour and a half. Like, who wants
Right.
to do
Or
that?
we both work
Yes.
at the book fair each year, and we have had parents coming up to us and saying, like, I've said that he's not getting this book unless it's in his level. Can you tell me what the level is? And both of us will respond with, let him get the book if he's interested in
Yeah.
it and wants
Yeah.
to read it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not everything has to be about...
Yeah, we let the program
right.
lead us instead of us letting
Right,
our
yeah,
kids
you're
pick that.
ruining the fun
Yeah.
if you're not
Yeah.
letting them read something that they're truly interested in.
Yeah. Yeah,
We know
that's a
that
good
sometimes
point.
it's hard to buy into, is reading really all that important? Like, maybe you weren't an awesome reader in high school or throughout school, and you're like, well, I turned out just fine. Like, my kid
Right.
doesn't have to read.
Yeah.
But we have a little snippet that we send home with all of our parents, and I'm sure lots of people have seen it out. It just says, why read 20 minutes at home? Like, 20 minutes, really, that's a pretty great goal. If you can get your child to read for 20 minutes and it's a great 20-minute quality time, it's great. But we have a little thing, and we'll just read it real quick. Student A reads an average of 20 minutes per day. That means they're exposed to 3,600 minutes per school year, 1.8 million words per year, and they typically would score within the 90th percentile of standardized tests.
And that can mean student A is reading by themselves or with you.
Okay.
It doesn't, mean that they're solely reading by themselves. So that would be student A if they do read 20 minutes at home. Student B reads an average of 5 minutes per day. That is 900 minutes per school year, 282,000 words per year, but then scoring in the 50th percentile on a standardized test.
Wow.
And then maybe the child who isn't getting that extra enforcement at home. So student C reads an average of 1 minute per day. That's only 180 minutes per school year, 8,000 words a year, and they typically are scoring in the 10th percentile or below in standardized testing.
Pretty direct correlation here.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So if they start reading for 20 minutes in kindergarten, by the end of 6th grade, student A will have read the equivalent of 60 school days, student B 12 school days, and student C only 3.
Yeah.
So I feel like that puts it into perspective. And when I look at reading, I don't want parents just to think like you're reading an AR book or a library
Right.
book.
Right.
Like, read a magazine. If
Right.
they're all into Sports Illustrated, that's
Right.
reading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
There may not be an AR test to finish it up, but they're
Yeah.
reading and they're getting
Yeah.
exposed to all of that.
Yeah.
Well, I that's a great point. I think we maybe should spend a little time on that. Maybe not every listener out there has an AR program that their kids involved
Right.
with or something like it, but many of our schools have those programs where it's there's an incentive for reading and accumulating points, and then maybe some rewards for those kind of things. And, I'll just tell you, I mean, we saw many times where kids were either getting reprimanded for reading out of their level,
Right.
Sure, yeah.
or not getting enough points,
Right.
or not reading the right type, whether it's fiction or nonfiction or whatever. And in particular, I know in our house, it was just always a heavy sigh
Right.
Yeah.
from the kiddos when it was like, hey, we need to read. And Linda and I were guilty to say, that's not even in your AR level. You aren't going to get points for that, or you're going to fail the
yeah.
test, or
Yeah.
whatever, because as parents, we always had our eye on, are you achieving?
Yeah. Meeting those goals.
Those
Yeah.
goals. So what's our keeping balance with what the school's asking, but also meeting the reading need of our kids? What's our best advice there?
I would say open communication with your child's teacher.
Right.
If you feel like your guy is at home reading to you every night, like you guys are making good progress, and like he's not going to meet that goal, like reach out to the teacher and be like, tell me what you would like expect us to be doing differently, or
Right.
is maybe our goal not obtainable for them?
Right.
Any
Right.
goal for a child should be obtainable, or we're setting them up to fail.
Right. Okay.
And that there's no worse feeling for a child than to feel that you
Yeah.
know they've disappointed you. It's not to say that there's some kids who maybe don't try their best to
Right.
meet
Right.
those goals.
Right.
That's a different conversation
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
need to have.
And I think it's important that they are reading at a level that they understand, reading at their instructional level. And so I get the idea behind having a level for a child and knowing where they're at. And so they're not picking out a book and they totally don't understand what they're reading. And then it turns into a waste of time.
Right.
I understand that. But I know that when I had to teach AR in second grade, I saw the kind of pressure it was putting on my students. And so I backed up a little bit on it. And that meant like meeting individually with students and not making this big deal, with the poster that has,
Everybody's
the
name
star
on it.
reader
Yeah.
with all the stickers, but then the kids who are struggling with one or two stickers, I saw right away that my high readers were definitely encouraged by the program, but my
Right.
strugglers were not.
Right.
And so it turned more into individual conversations with students, setting goals with the student. What do you think you can do this quarter? And then I would have students that would say, I think I could do more, or I don't think I can do that. And we would have a conversation about it, but not putting so much pressure around one program.
Right. Okay.
Because it wasn't instilling a love of learning for my strugglers.
Yeah.
You need to ask yourself, are you like instilling a love of reading or instilling a love of like how many AR points we could get?
Right, right.
And I feel for the most part, especially in our building, that's what I'm most familiar with, that our teachers definitely realize that. My son is in fourth grade.
Right.
He gets to set his point goal with his teacher, and he doesn't really have necessarily a target level. Like he can check out just a book that he's interested in, and that's made a difference for him for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know both for me as a reader and for really, I'm just going to tell you, I mean, I have 4 boys in my house, and all 4 of my boys have kind of read in the same way. A lot of people read for the enjoyment of it, and they create a visual story in their mind, and their imagination runs, and I think that's great, but that's not the type of reader I am, and that's
Right.
none of my boys have been that type of reader.
Right.
We've all been people who read to seek information. Like I love to read now if I can get resources and practical, useful stuff, right? And so how do we help parents with that? Like, I mean, it's great if your kid gets that imagination, can create that story in their head, but if they're not doing a good job with that, or if that's not easy for them, and we're second and third grade, how do we start to say, okay, well, maybe we need to start looking for what type of reader they are?
Right.
I mean, I would say for sure, talking to your child, asking them, like if you were going to read, what would you want to read about? And then, going to your library. Don't just depend on our school library to provide it all.
Right.
Take your kid to the library and let them pick
Right.
something out. See if you guys can find books together. Or, like I said, magazines. You can
Right.
find anything on any topic.
And I think, too, showing the importance of reading, not necessarily the love of reading, but the importance of being able to read.
Yeah.
Just pointing that out.
Yeah.
I mean, with simple things like, okay, we want to make this for dinner. Here's the recipe. I have to be able to read it in order to do that.
That's the
Right.
practical
Right.
function.
Or
Yeah.
here is this article that I need facts from. I have to be able to read to get the facts out. And, how you said you read to get information, well, pointing that out to your child, like reading is not just for these fantasy books or whatever topic you want to read about. It's also extremely helpful every day.
Right. Yeah, and I like that. You went back to a very simple thing before, teaching your kids how to read the menu.
Absolutely.
We teach all the time about how to get our kids to communicate, and one of the things we talk about is having them order their own food.
Oh, yeah.
Well, how difficult is that when you can't read a menu? So there's lots of practical use of, reading is not something to despise and hate, but we do need to find or teach the kids why this is valuable to them. And, when they're 5 and 6 years old, it may not click all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Or even, too, talking about, what kinds of jobs they want to have when they get older, and then
point out those
pointing out,
okay,
here's the reading that you're going to have to do if this is something that you want to achieve when you're older.
Yeah. That's really good stuff. So let's just say that we get to a point where maybe we're getting into second and third grade and the reading is becoming a greater burden. We're not seeing our kid grow in that area. At what point as a parent do you start to kind of panic like, my kid is now 2 grade levels below, or, when do I panic and what do I do about that as a parent?
I would really make sure you're staying in contact with your child's teacher and ask them the same things. Like, hey, I'm panicked at home that I feel Johnny is super far behind. Are you seeing that too?
Yeah.
Do you feel like...
And giving, I always say, and you have to give the teacher permission to say that. Like, if you're defending, he's not home very much because we're running around. Don't make an excuse. Let the teacher speak to say, well, here's what I'm seeing.
Right.
And
I think that's the biggest thing in our classrooms with everything is like, just realize we're on the same page as you.
Yeah, we want to be on your team.
Yeah.
We come there every day in the hopes that, we're making a difference in your child's life and that we're helping them grow. Like, tell us that you're concerned. We're going to tell you that we're concerned too, if, that's the case. So,
and hopefully if it's, 2 grade levels behind, hopefully that's not information a parent is getting, in 4th grade and now they're being told. Hopefully it's something that they've been told by the teacher and just working together with the teacher as a team on what are some programs we can do. Do we need a tutor? Do I need to, check out books from the library and just let him or her, read just for fun and get their fluency up? What kinds of things can we do as a team? And I know Karen and I also, just to involve the families, we do a family reading night. And that we've had great response to it. We want to show that reading can be fun. It can be relaxed. But also we want to build that team with those parents and say, we don't want to just see you at conference time. We want to
going wrong.
When something's going wrong, we want to see you often because we do care about your child and we are a team and, we want them to feel comfortable coming to us having built a relationship.
Yeah. And I really feel like we, to go back to some of the things that we're using at our schools now, like just over the past couple of years, like we've really made strides in finding programs that help us identify those struggling readers and give us the tools.
Early.
So hopefully, they're getting identified much earlier so that by the time they get to 4th grade, it's not this huge wall that they've hit. And we're stuck.
I think that's key. Also, I think one reason why I wanted to schedule the show around this time of year is because, especially for the earlier grades, kindergarten, 1st grade, even 2nd grade, if a parent comes in the first week of school says, are you worried about my child and their reading ability? It takes a while. Also, just with the processes of screening and kids becoming comfortable and just getting the groove to see how kids are starting to roll out in their performance, it takes a while. And usually the first red light was always after the first quarter report card.
Yes.
And so I would not hear from a single parent, and that first report card would come out and like, okay. And then at Christmas time, of course, with the midterm or mid-year. And right about now, things always got pretty serious because now we're actually talking about, we're coming into spring. And this is where decisions really have to be made, whether we're going to pursue everything from special education to further testing to even the potential for retention. So this is a critical time of year, but it's also critical in that your teacher has now seen this student long enough they should have a very solid handle on where they're going with this kiddo, right? And so So as a parent, you need to know, okay, this is, if you're seeing something that's got you alarmed, ask the questions. And hopefully the teacher's already brought this to you by this time of year.
And to kind of piggyback that, like as a parent, don't be offended or like try to fight us. You know, if we come to you and say, hey, like, you know, your little girl, your little guy, they're not making the progress we need. Like, this is what we think. Yeah. It's not a bad thing for your child to need extra help. And we're so blessed that we're able to offer that, you know. So be welcoming to that, you know, like talk and be open about that.
You know, I think that's a great point. And I think just from our experience pulling that together, you know, we oftentimes as parents, we panic. And we panic because we see these status numbers that we're supposed to get our kids to, whether it's a grade level or whether it's an IQ or whatever this number
the
is.
Average,
the average. And we see our kid maybe is not hitting that number. And again, I don't want to minimize that, but a lot of this is developmental. And so your kid may not be developing like the kid next to them. And that's not a reason to panic, you know, because we could also replace reading with baseball skills.
Sure.
Right. And say, oh, well, this kid in baseball skills is head and shoulders above that one. So there's so much developmental readiness. And I only say that because a lot of times things start to work out over time.
Sure they do.
And again, that's not to say we push it aside, but we don't need to panic.
Right.
We trust the system. We give our kids time to mature and to grow, and that's why we have this conversation about boys. Well, you know, this is no new news. Boys, their developmental readiness for reading tends to lag behind girls. Okay, and so as a parent, we just want to keep that in mind. That if the teacher's like, you know what, they're working hard. I see them progressing. I'm good with where they are.
Right.
All right. We need to rest on that.
Yeah. Sure. And just knowing that your teacher has your child's best interest at heart.
For sure.
If the teacher is reaching out to you to say they're struggling in an area, it is not to pick on a child. It is not to, make anyone feel like they're not doing their job. It is us reaching out to you in that team aspect to see what we can do to help.
Sure, and as much as a parent might beat themselves up over like, oh my gosh, like, they're still not there. Teachers are doing that as well. You know, like, oh my gosh, I'm still not meeting what this child needs.
Yeah, there could be a lot at stake there.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so we want to wrap things up. I know that individually every parent could have questions and things for their own child. And I just want to go back to that idea of if you do have questions, your first go-to is with your child's teacher.
Absolutely.
Right? And not to the principal or the counselor, okay? I mean, we really want to encourage that you get that relationship with that teacher, but you give that teacher permission to speak, right? And like you said, we're on the same team. And I trust, the teacher is always working in the best interest of the kid. So that's our first deal that we really want to start working through. Do you guys have any pointers or tips or anything that you want to leave our parents with before we close out?
I mean, just try to keep things positive, encouraging, and involved with them.
Yeah.
Right.
We're in the world of technology, like, they don't need to have their best friend be a screen.
Right.
Very good.
Let that person be you, and you work with them.
And just having fun with it. I mean, let them be a kid.
Yeah.
Let them pick up things that they want to read and that they're interested in, and just having fun with it. We talk about some of our best guest readers, like a guest you've had here recently, engages the kids just because they're having fun with it.
I think you're speaking of Mr. Frank.
We are
right?
speaking of Mr. Frank.
I think you're speaking of we're allowed to, we can trash talk him if we want.
We would only trash talk you.
Oh, right. You're right. Well, I was hoping we'd get through this show
Frank
without being trash talk. But
yes, he could read the dictionary and the kids would be engaged because of the way he's reading. He's just having fun.
Yes.
He's trying to be positive with the kids, and they feed off that.
Right. And he's being authentic too, and I think that's one thing too as a parent. Maybe reading is not your deal, and maybe it's challenging, or maybe you're not very, you're just not very theatrical in your presentation. But trying to work things that just get your kid engaged, whether it's hands-on stuff, whether it's voice tone, whatever it is, trying to have some fun to get your kids engaged.
Being positive and being present are probably your biggest things to help your child do most things.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So great stuff here. I just want to thank you two ladies for giving us some time today. And ultimately, this is trying to help our families and our kiddos. So
thanks for having us.
Thanks for what you're doing. Keep doing what what you're doing.
Thank you.
All right. So we want to just say thank you again to our sponsors. We want to thank Maxwell Construction for coming behind and supporting Rock Solid Radio, as well as Mansfield Insurance. So all of you folks out there, get out there and let's make it a great day.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Rock Solid Radio. For help or more information about what you've heard on today's show, contact us at rocksolidfamilies.org or call us at 812-576-ROCK. That's 812-576-ROCK. Again, a huge thanks to our sponsors, Maxwell Construction and Mansfield Insurance Agency. If you have questions you'd like answered on our show, or you want to chime in on something you heard, go to our Facebook page, Rock Solid Families. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to tune in next week for another episode of Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, and for my husband Merle and I, thanks for tuning in to Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community, one family at a time.